Did you miss us? I missed this. But, you know.
Okay.
Okay.
I had it off.
Adjusting things, don't worry.
Keep going. You're good.
I don't really. Yes, hello. We are back. Back. Hi, Dad. Hold on, let me. Are you happy with the camera?
Yeah, you can come towards me a little bit. That was not at all. Yeah, that's good.
You're like cut off though.
It's fine. Just keep going.
But I have to switch over to the other window, and then you won't be able to see this.
That's true. Sorry, folks. We had to use this weekend, and it's slightly moved from its original position, so we had to dial it in a little bit while we were doing this. It's all good now. I'm just gonna do that. It'll make it easier.
Hey. Oop. Oh, come here. All right. Oop. So, last time when we ended, we were Rasha. We are nearing the end, so to speak, or what could be the end. The Illithid invasion is less than a month away. Rasha has become a godling and gained some godly powers. And she has been telling the cities in Rumedan about the extra information they learned about the Illithid from the actual alive Illithid that the professor brought back from one of the ships in a crazy daring escapade. That was
very crazy, very daring,
very, very lucky.
very escapade.
Shenanigans.
Pretty much.
So, by the very end of last time, Rasha had performed her first miracle in Carnoasis. There we go. We're right here. All right, good. Her first miracle in Carnoasis. She walked into the eternal flame in front of the Temple of Miliana, kind of made it bigger and turned that flame into a sort of like a portal.
Not sort of, definitely.
Like a portal. In case, as a last resort, this would take people to the Temple of the Sky, to Azita Haka, where they would be safe. And she also, within a certain range of that flame, offered, it gave extra protection to the people fighting the Illithid in the form of mind blank. Was there anything? That was just it. Yeah. That's a big deal.
I thought it also prevented Illithid from coming through somehow.
Well, I mean, from going through the portal.
Yeah.
You had to be of good intent or whatever.
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
Which, no Illithid are good, right?
If there's anybody, that has...
Yeah, none of them are good.
Yeah, no.
You not Sarah Morse evil, period.
Yeah. So then she spends some time there. About a week. Approximately.
Yep.
Not approximately. Exactly, I guess. And then she goes to Asarudin.
Bamf.
With the teleport that she's gained from her godly powers. Finally! It's so hard to travel when you're just a person. Rosh just literally spent months running through the desert to warn all of the cities in Rumedan about the Illithid invasion when they first learned about it.
It's how normal people move. It's how everybody else
normal people don't
move.
Run through the desert by themselves for months.
Yeah, but what I mean is, it's how regular people move because they move by foot or by creature.
We're not regular people.
Still, I mean...
Game-wise, it's, annoying. Anyways, so she goes to Asarudin, and performs essentially the same miracle and blessing there. She checked on the Temple of Herodotus. They were doing good. She knows that they have protections. So she went to a park near the legendary market in Asarudin. I guess I could have clicked on the cities, but Carnoasis was first. Wonderful place. That's the wrong one.
I can do this if you want. While you're talking.
And then Asarudin. And she creates an eternal flame there, which performs the same purpose. It's if some people walk into the fire, they will be teleported to the Temple of the Sky, Zeta Haka, as a last resort of protection and a fallback. And it also offers Mind Blank, which is mental protection within a certain distance of the flame. The next day, she teleports back to Riyadh. Like her hometown. She tells the Sultan about her plans to, bestow a blessing on the city as an Amatius Spentus Fravashi, which is kind of like a saint. But since that's what the High Priestess Miliana kind of dubbed her as, because once were Rasha to be able to make it to Ascension, she would be in that pantheon, the Amatius Spentus pantheon, the Rumadani gods. Obviously, she's very Rumadani, right? Mm-hmm. She's embodying an ancient Rumadani legend and carrying an ancient Rumadani sword.
Of legend.
So then again, after a week from the time in Asarudin, she goes to the market in there's also like a big legendary market in Riyadh, right? Yeah. And there is
They're on opposite sides of the continent that Ramadan is basically takes up. Asarudin and Riyadh. And yeah, Asarudin and Riyadh, opposite sides. That's why it's like one's like West Coast awesome city, the other one's like East Coast awesome city.
Yeah, they are both port cities. There is kind of in the center of the market a pool, a fountain with like an ancient obelisk in the middle of it, which is what she walked up on top of the first time and spoke to the people and gained followers. And this is the same obelisk that she calls people sort of again and performs the miracle, and she doesn't light the obelisk on fire, but she lights the obelisk on fire. It's like surrounded. So I keep hitting the microphone because I talk with my hands. It's, engulfed in flames. And it's very funny because the obelisk is some old ancient actual thing.
To gods that are no longer worshipped. That have been forgotten by time.
An obelisk to a forgotten god, and now it has been repurposed into an obelisk of a very, very new god. So, one thing that you gain... So one thing, mechanics-wise, that we had to do, that Jason had us do, if we were to become god-blooded, is pick up the feat leadership, right? Mm-hmm. And that, because if you're going to have followers, you just have to have that feat, right?
You should.
You should. It's a mechanics thing. I mean, whatever. And the destiny point system that Jason has, you could spend destiny points to gain feats.
Yeah.
So Jason says, well, you can now have a cohort. And we kind of talked about what sounded good about that, and we decided on something. So the timing on this, it doesn't matter exactly when it happened. It's close to the end, close to before the invasion.
And you have time in Riyadh, days.
There's some days, some amount of days, and so one of those days, Rasha is just going to the market to walk around, I guess, and she sees, kind of gathered right next to the obelisk, the fountain there, a group of people who are listening to a man speak, and what's his name?
Is it Farouk?
I don't know. You
Farouk.
made his sheet.
Farouk.
You
I
made
think it
his
was
sheet.
Farouk. I'm pretty sure it was Farouk.
Yeah, you made his sheet. You're not gonna pull it up?
I mean, to keep talking, that's what people
Anyways, yeah, but you weren't doing it, so. She sees a man that she knows, and it is her old teacher, her old master for dervish dancing. He's the man that taught her what she knows about dervish dancing. That's who the Sultan says, all right, you're going to learn from this man, Farah. Master Farah was his name. And she sees him talking to a group of people, and they're talking about her. These are people that are now followers of hers, and Master Farah has kind of come into a leadership role among them in that city. I suppose even as someone that knew her. And they're kind of talking just a little bit about the principles of Sharav, and and also just on a communal kind of a thing. And they're like, all right, well now we're gonna share and have lunch together. So Rasha grabs some food to share and walks over.
Did you say how you know him?
I talked about he was my master.
I was opening a thing. I'm just making sure.
Yep. She.
Food.
She walks over, and he's there, and he's like, oh, Sharav! Or Rasha. He doesn't call her Sharav, because Rasha, oh my gosh, and, goodness, it's so good to see you. And she's like, oh, master. And he's like, oh no, I don't know, you
Not anymore.
Surpassed me at this. And, they so she has lunch with them, and then she brings him, I think, back to the palace just to talk for a bit, and they have like a little duel kind of a thing, and I think she just kind of barely bests him, or she bests him, and he says, well, it's like, you have learned more, past what I have taught you, type of thing. And she tells him a few things about, what she's gone through and stuff, and she's like, I would like you to meet somebody. She's like, would you be alright if I took you to meet Azita Haka? And he's kind of like, excuse you?
Yeah, right.
Meet who? Meet this legendary dragon that might exist?
Huh, okay, sure.
And she's like, alright. She's like, okay, let's go.
Wump.
And that teleports them to
Temple of the Sky.
the Temple of the Sky. And as with anyone who comes there for the first time, there is a Sphinx sitting there, and he has to
answer 3 riddles.
Answer some riddles. He gets at least one of them right.
Yeah. Doesn't get them all right.
Yeah, at least one, and then the Sphinx is like,
It's
well,
not
what
totally
have you...
a riddle guy.
Yeah, he's like, the Sphinx is like, and what have you learned? He's like, I've learned that I know nothing. The Sphinx is like, okay.
Good, you answered that riddle right.
You can go through.
Head on in.
And he's like, oh, okay. So they go in, and Rasha's like, my lord, Azita Haka, come for a visit. I've brought, my old master, taught me my dervish dancing and everything. And Master Farah is just absolutely astounded and just flabbergasted at seeing this immense being
of legend. No one believes is real.
Yeah, it's. And and then she mentions she had mentioned before that she had trained with Azita Haka, but it hadn't really registered. And she's like, "This is my old master," and Azita Haka's like, all right. This is who trained you before you trained with me. I see you very well." And Master Farah's like, "You trained with him? Well, no wonder your skills have grown to that extent."
Oh. I see.
All right, then.
Made sense.
I understand now. I understand. So then she spends a good several hours with the both of them, telling them of her adventures and what she's gone through. Pretty much everything, like in as much detail as she can. All the things she's done. She tells them about Treskin, of the love that she gained and then lost. Master Farah is like, he's like, "I'm sorry that you have lost him, but I'm glad that you found that, that you had that, and you experienced that, type of thing." And it's a good time. It was a very good time. After that, they teleport on further days to each place where Rasha has followers. And Rasha introduces him to everyone there and says that, should anything happen to me, I want you all to listen to him.
And he's like, "Yeah, nothing's gonna happen to you."
And Rasha's
because, you're awesome. NBA. So that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. She does. One thing that she does mention to him and to Azita Haka is that maybe even the Sultan at a different time, she's like, "I have a feeling that I will not make it out the end of this coming war in the same way. I don't think that I will still be here." She says, "I can feel this power within me, and I have used it a lot." And she's like, "I can feel it, just burning within me, and I know that there will soon come a time when I will no longer be able to remain on this plane."
It's true.
Like, she knows that at any moment she could ascend. She feels that within her. Like, over the past couple weeks, she's done 3 miracles. In a few weeks, she's done 3 really insane miracles and, utilized her power in that way. And she knows that that could be coming soon. That is, however, almost, what's the word that I'm thinking of? A comfort, in a way, to her, because she knows that the Illithid will be targeting her, and she knows that if it comes to a point where they might capture her and, take her and try and sacrifice her to her god, she knows that she has that as a final out kind of a thing.
To get away. Hopefully. I mean, you never know what thing they're going to try to do to suppress that, but, that's the idea. I can just ascend, and then the Illithid won't be able to harvest my spiritual energy to reawaken their dark god.
Because that would be terrible.
Yes. Terrible and insane.
Yeah. So then they spend the last couple days, and then the invasion begins.
On the night of the Red Eye.
On the night of the Red Eye, which has not meant good things for Rasha, at least in the past.
Oh no.
You know, the ships appear in the sky and there are attacks.
In many places across the world.
Many places.
The
Because
Illithid
there are
ships fill the sky.
so many of them. There are so many of them.
And there were some had been warned that would. Yeah.
We knew, but you know, it's still there's only so much preparation that you can do, really.
Oh, that's not what I meant. I meant there was if we ever do that mission, it's there. It's a good line. When their ships fill the sky, your people will fill with dread.
Oh.
You will know the dread of the Empire.
I see. So, gameplay-wise, what we did for the battle with the Illithid is Jason ran he sort of made up a risk-ish a risk-ish type of board game that he ran on Tabletop Simulator, where different players were controlling different nations, and Jason was controlling the Illithids.
And so, it wasn't I really just used Risk.
Essentially, yeah.
And then put it on a Naboria map, and, had different territories and areas people can move, and movements and different...
sea units, land units, and air units, because there are airships, there are dragons, there are...
there's actual ships, they're people for infantry. Every country has kind of a different thing. Every nation has sort of different, flavor. So it allowed for... It's you can add whatever flavor to it, but there's air, sea, and land. And there are, I think it was small, medium, and large.
World map, maybe? Or... Do you have the map that you made?
I do, actually. It's right here.
There we go. This is how he edited the map for the basically Risk type of game.
Oh, yeah. Light, medium, heavy, land, air, and sea. So, 9 different combinations of units, and they had different costs and different TNs to hit and do damage to, and do damage to, all that type of stuff, right? I varied Risk slightly, but I basically just used Risk because it's a very good system good and simple, straightforward system for worldwide combat. I did not use the card system either, because that would be way too much. It was very straightforward. Yeah. And it worked out for the game, actually. It simulated
this was January.
Very well. Or in the middle of
so we were all
the pandemic
separate.
Going on. So we're all online.
So we were doing it in Tabletop
Simulator.
Board game.
Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah.
I still have the game saved also.
Now, in theory, it was all the players against Jason, against the Illithid. However, there was nothing that said that countries could not invade other countries that weren't controlled by the Illithid, because if they could gain more territory, then they would have more units to work with themselves. A little bit of that happened. Not a huge amount, but...
No, but a little. And there was some that, by the end, the map was somewhat changed, but not much. And it was interesting to see, what the players did, because they weren't necessarily playing their characters through the board game. They were playing the nations.
They were not playing their characters.
And then the characters would come along so I had different pieces on the map. See if I can find that real quick.
Yeah.
So there were capitals. There were capitals on the map, and there were a couple other locations as well, that if the Illithid captured, if it was held by the Illithid, which certain lands were already held by the Illithid, because there were certain, the characters couldn't get everywhere on the world. So they kind of focused on where they had the most influence and where they had the most ability to kind of stave the Illithid off. In other places, the Illithid had completely taken over, and so not only did they have already controlled areas of the planet, but they were able to deploy anywhere on the map, as opposed to adjacent places, or in their own, because they're coming from the sky. So they're coming from the sky, and they're on the world, and they're able to deploy and move a little more egregiously than many of the other nations are. And in that, if if a nation or if a group takes an Illithid capital, if they make it all the way into the territory and takes that capital, it is, or the Illithid make it to a player-controlled capital, it's a scene where characters get to play out what happens there. And things like they can, they might not stave the Illithid off from taking a place they once owned, but they could capture one of the Illithid ships, or they could capture an Illithid, and then get some intel, and, each of the scenarios led into another scenario very, very easily and very fluidly, so that these capital captures and these times where the PCs interacted at character sheet level and role-playing wise, that they had goals and they had reasons to do so.
There was also a couple of rules. Jason said that I feel like this is more just to make things easier for us. The Illithid could not directly attack a capital.
Oh yes.
From the air, unless
that would be that would not be fun.
No.
That doesn't seem fun,
There were also several locations where the Illithid could not, just come in from the air because of what a player had done. The player of Graven, who was the god Hieratus, god of magic in the Erwin Pantheon. God of magic
in the Corinthic Pantheon.
Pantheon.
But the only god worshipped in Erwin is Hieratus.
The only god, yeah. And he did this large miracle thing right before he ascended, because he ascended. So, yes.
It was really cool, Phil.
Graven ascended before the war. The professor also ascended before the war.
Many of the actual godlings did before the war because, and we did this on a different day.
They had been godlings longer.
Yes, they've been longer, and they knew that something was going on in the Outer Planes. The Far Realm was attacking the Outer Planes. So not only was the world in turmoil from the Illithid invasion itself, and that was like a world-level character sheet thing, but the people becoming gods actually got to do something with that, and not just oh, look, I can't play my character and do anything. I made a card game based around the planes, and it didn't quite work how I wanted it to.
But we won.
Yeah, we
beat back the Far Realms, and reality didn't get destroyed.
Yes, because that would have ended everything. Game over, no world left, all things gone. The Illithid invasion only would have changed the story. There were many possibilities based on what success or failure of the characters and their strategies on the board game, and I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, which I like. I really like that as a GM, and I'm like, well, this is the scenario, and here are the stakes. What happens after this? I don't know. It fully depends upon what the characters accomplish. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. Another thing that was marked on this map was the location of god-blooded individuals.
Yes, that were not the characters. That were just
characters.
Other god-blooded individuals that existed in the world.
Some. And so, if Illithid trying to take a capital, or the players trying to take a capital back from the Illithid, that led to a role-playing opportunity where we got to play characters, whether it was our own PCs or those ones whose PCs had ascended, they got to play NPCs. Also, if there was a possibility of the Illithid capturing a god-blooded, we then, as the players, had a chance to stop that. Even if we didn't stop whatever invasion they were doing, we did still have the opportunity to stop them from capturing a god-blooded individual. Which, did they capture any?
No, you guys successfully stopped them each time and moved them around the board. And then, one of them was an NPC from a long time ago, Arthur, who's one of the original characters in this whole world scenario.
Was the one that was I'll take care of myself, and then just kept moving?
Yeah, it just kept moving around the board.
Yeah, it was cool.
So it did things. So I would move different pieces on the board game. I wish I could pull the board game up and show you all. Actually, it may not take me long. I just am not certain what it's going to look like. Wait, I have a picture.
Oh, there's a picture.
Well, keep going, love. I'll see if I can find the picture.
So I was not actively playing the board game simply because I've never played Risk, and I was not at all confident in my ability to learn. I was there the whole time, which it took hours and hours and hours,
I think we did it in like 2 or 3 sessions.
It was three whole sessions. The first.
Oh wow. Yeah, 3 sessions.
Yeah.
The 16th, 17th, and 20th.
Time.
So I just noticed
January,
the finale vids that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
The first heroic opportunity that I got during the war was what's that? It was, I think, over here.
Erebor in Xanthraxis. When you guys, when they took Xanthraxis the first time through the Shadow Gates, because that's some of their, they wanted to like try to invade directly. Totally worked. Use story things to for tactics.
Did we?
You had to capture somewhere in Marbanzi and then move there to a Shadow Gate.
Yeah. So
well,
that was Rasha got to do things, but it mostly consisted of like, I don't remember it super exactly. I just remember that like at the end of it, I think we managed to steal a ship or something.
Yes, that was the idea.
Yeah.
So there were numerous, like you were saying, the heroic opportunities are what I call them, which I totally take from an L5R system. In like major battles, you have different heroic opportunities where you're not just moving units, you have characters that can do things, right? That's what these are. So the heroic opportunities were retreat from a capital, take a capital, prevent a god-blooded from being kidnapped, steal an Illithid vessel during a capital assault, deliver a stolen Illithid vessel with a bomb to a progenitor. So the progenitors are the ones in space, right?
The motherships.
Or potentially deliver stolen. Yeah, they could do that. Strike a progenitor from a stolen Illithid ship to defeat an Elder Brain. Prevent Clutho, their ancient god, from resurrecting.
Which that meant we had to protect the god-blooded NPCs, which we did.
And there was a final one that they had to find out about through the entirety of the scenario, which was actually the culmination of the entire game.
We'll get there.
I know. I'm not saying what it is. I'm just stating that that's the case.
But yeah. So, at the end of the first heroic opportunity that Rasha had, there were a lot of people there, including some drow, on our side, because they were from the city that Treskin Volrain had taken over, the city of Volrain. It used to be, Rasha had been there before. It used to be called Lycan, but it was now called Volrain because he was like the god of it now. People were asking about the bombs that Treskin had left over, and where they were. And so after this encounter like finished, and people had like taken a ship and they were like, we need to go now, but we don't know exactly, if we can be useful. And Rasha's like, I need to talk to Treskin, and she saw priests of Treskin there, and she's like, I need to talk to him. And they're like, you can go sit on the chair.
Because that's the answer. And
she knew what they were talking about. She knew that Alexander had sat on the chair and like
went crazy.
But and like saw Treskin like all the time. Thought he was there with him.
All the time.
Which that was a funny thing to roleplay, because the player of Treskin did actually roleplay as that, even though it was just the person.
A figment of Alexander's imagination. It wasn't actually Treskin. And Alexander and Treskin were friends.
Yeah.
So it's like he's just still with his friend. It was.
There was just one occasion where Rasha was just kind of like, I know that this isn't actually happening, but I'll just kind of go along with it. And because Alexander was like, no, Treskin's sitting there. And then Rasha's just like, he can sit here. And like pats her lap. And then the player's like, oh, okay. That was funny. Anyways, so Rasha has been to Lycan and knows the chair that they are sitting of. She hasn't been there since Treskin took it over, obviously.
Yeah,
she
you've
teleports.
been there since, yeah.
Does she take anyone with her? Or no?
I don't remember.
I think she takes someone,
I don't remember.
Maybe Jen.
I
thought she took someone with her, maybe.
I
don't remember. It doesn't matter. She teleports directly into this sort of throne room in the Underdark city that she has been to a long time ago, and
Where
where
much of you
Ragnar
defeated
defeated a demon in like one
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah, I mean they nearly killed each other, but he got
Yes.
he got the upper hand.
He got that one last big hit, and then Odin took her away.
But we told that story before.
We did. Anyways, Rasha's like, I think this is a I'm pretty sure Jenny was there.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah. Anyways, because I feel like I remember talking to Byron. Like.
Probably.
Anyways, so Rasha goes and she's like, "This really seems like a really bad idea," and sits down in the chair. I made the save to not go crazy.
Yeah.
And so Jason's like,
Ryan,
okay,
you got like 3
Ryan,
sentences.
You feel this, you sense this, right? That Rasha is sitting down in the chair. Ryan's character is a god now, and has ascended, and is actively involved in this fight against the Far Realms.
Specifically against one of their eldritch beings. That a deity if you want to call it that, but it's like an anti-deity, and doesn't want to let that into anyone's mind.
And so
because regardless of Treskin, that'll ruin him.
Closes his eyes, and he's like, "It's really good to hear from you, but I don't have a lot of time. You have 3 questions." So she asks the first 2 questions. One of them is about like where the bombs are. I don't remember specifically what all 3 of them were. Unfortunately, we have it on video if I need to actually go and look back at it. Because I was streaming the whole finale, which is a lot of video. Before her 3rd question, she says, "I love you very much, and no matter what, when this is all over," she's like, "I'm gonna find you." And Jason made Ryan make a will saving roll so that he didn't open his eyes to actually be able to see her. It was very sweet. He didn't open his eyes, thankfully. Did not.
Yeah. Because regardless of him being a god of madness, seeing having Rasha see a thing such as that would destroy her. In the state she's in currently. She's not yet a god. So even then, it would at least drive her as insane as Alexander was, if not destroy her.
So she gets answers to her questions and shares that information with her friends. I don't know if she even saw any of the drow, because no one was in the throne room. She just kind of
No, because they all went to go to battle.
Popped in and then popped back out again.
No one goes in there either, so it's one of those things.
They don't really go in.
People stand outside are like, "You got a card? You can go in. Don't have a card? You're dead, man." Kind of how it works.
A card?
Yeah.
They don't allow followers to go in there?
Not really.
Oh, huh. The funny thing is, Rasha did have a card, but she just teleported right in. Hey.
What happened next? There are many other. I know that there are many other heroic opportunities where
Rasha wasn't involved, I don't think, in most of them, because I was like, I don't really see any way as to why I would have gotten there or known about it.
One's like Genya falls trying to saving Nanashi. He dies and becomes what he wanted to do.
Doesn't Nanashi do something kind of crazy at some point? I don't know.
I think it's a little later.
Oh, well.
And it really comes to your next, there are other ones where they get, other people get different Illithid ships, and you figure out where the bombs are, and they have different ways
different plans and things
to do, But they want to be able to do it at the same time.
The first player death in the war was Argoth.
Yes. Well, that's still, you all kind of go up. Oh, no, that's right. That's right, because he just went up there.
Yeah, he just went out there with the person that they had gotten over to with the Illithid they had gotten over to their side. Argoth was a powerful wizard character and took this very powerful wizard drug and basically exploded with magical power and destroyed one of the progenitors.
In a light show that made every single other progenitor question their success
They're like,
and drive their invasion forces even harder.
They're like, this may not be like as
Easy
assured a
as we
victory as we thought. Uh-oh.
We must press harder. And so after that, more Illithid and more things started invading the world, and the players were like, oh my goodness. Now the thing is, there were only so many waves that they would have to face, and if the Illithid didn't have an X number of capitals by the time that those waves were finished, then they had successfully prevented the Illithid from taking the entirety of the planet.
The Illithid would decide that
the effort is too great.
Worth it. Yeah, the effort is too great.
They would come back later, or who knows what, right? It all just really depended on what they did. However, at this point, it was still dicey, and they had taken some capitals, and it wasn't looking great in this moment.
And then,
and Rumadan was not doing great either.
No.
At this moment.
Rumadan wasn't doing great, but, so, it is at this point where, somewhere around here, where the Illithid are actively invading the Dragon Isles, Iona, which is the capital of the Dragon Isles, and
which Laufeyr had just gained control of, and if you think that guy's gonna let something up easy, you're dead wrong.
And all of the dragons that were alive and awake,
yes,
came. The
firstborn
firstborn dragons. So all these ones, even the wish dragon, yeah, Lavanya, the wish
dragon of dreams,
the dragon of dreams, wish dragon.
I think Subutor was the only one that didn't actually come.
Oh yeah, because she's like crazy and.
Yeah, I mean Cilia wouldn't have came either, but she was dead.
Yeah, she was dead. So Azita Haka, Laufeyr, Laut,
Shimoto. No, Shimoto didn't come either.
No?
No.
Oh yeah, because he's actually had to protect
Nihura.
And there was a God-blooded and stuff like that. Yeah.
He had a good reason to not come.
Wow, why did I just forget her name?
Babaga.
Babaga.
Jormungand.
Grindel. Yeah, like these went lots of dangerous. But yeah. And so it was at this point where I made a player-based decision, and so Rasha came with Azita Haka. She was like riding like on his back. And they're all flying in towards the Dragon Isles. There is a what?
Sorry, Daka Ilis. Sorry, I'm being weird.
What?
Don't worry about it.
Keep going. So they're coming in, and they see there is a progenitor actually like coming down and into the atmosphere above
Iona.
It is this enormous vessel, like
city or multiple city-sized vessel.
It's huge, and it's above this island city, the capital of the dragons.
Moment, where it was like, oh my goodness, this is what we're fighting.
It's absolutely, ridiculous.
Terrifying in its size
and
scope.
So, the firstborn dragons, like Rasha has talked with Azita Haka, and he knows what her plan is. And so, it's like, we need to tear that thing open so that we can get inside it. Who does, actually? Like, they do. They tear it open.
I think Babaga may have. Babaga and or Jormungand.
Probably both.
So what I also did with this is like, all right, this is happening, so people can play their characters if they want to, or everyone had the option to choose one of the firstborn dragons to play.
And it was really great because so many of the players are connected with a dragon. Like, the player of the professor was connected to Loud, played Loud.
Rob, the player of Ragnar played Jormungand.
Ryan, the player of Trescan, actually played Babaga because Mac wasn't there, I think.
I thought Mac did play Babaga, but I could be wrong.
No, I literally just listened to a part of it.
Cool.
But,
yeah.
Things like that. So they rip a hole in the ship, and it's like kind of the bottom. And it's one of their
hangar bays.
Their hangar bays, right?
And they're fighting Illithid ships on the way up and like smashing through things in the sky and yeah.
And it's at this point, Azita Haka essentially tosses Rasha into the ship. Tosses her into the ship. Lout is there, and he says, what is your plan? And she says, I'm going to take this ship down. And he's like, okay. I have things to do, and disappears. He goes off to kill the Elder Brain.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
And is never heard from again.
Yep. That is true.
On purpose. Because he's a sneaky dude. Very sneaky. Are we on the Dragon Isles? There it is. We can't scoot over anymore. But it's right there. Iona. So, at this point, it has been weeks since the last miracle that Rasha performed. So, and she has a lot of godly power within her. So,
yeah, because I think each round around the board was a month.
Yeah, so lots of time has passed, right? And as Lout walked off from his shoulder, because I think he was at that point in human form, a squirrel jumps over to Rasha and is like, I'm gonna help you, and it's Babaga.
Because she's a druid, and she can just do that.
And Rasha's like,
which is terrifying.
Okay, but I'm not coming out of this.
She's like, oh.
And she's like, okay, so she's kind of just sitting there for a bit. So Rasha, is in there and is flying up, like getting as close up to the ceiling into sort of the center of the ship as she can. And, Illithid see that she's there and is doing this and are
attempting to attack her and do things, but she has mind blank.
She has mind blank and manages to deflect those attacks.
Because she is awesome.
Those mental attacks. And is at this point that Rasha...
I should have given him lasers. I'm kidding. Pew, pew, pew! No. Sorry.
It is at this point that Rasha calls upon the power of Bahamut, that divine intervention power that she has gained from Azita Haka, and, asks for just as much power as possible to just destroy this, give my fire the power to destroy this. Because at this moment, Babaga literally senses...
She's like, whoa!
Her father is there for a moment, right? And she can, feel that, Rasha's kind of powering up, and Babaga's like, okay.
Later. It's time for go now.
So Rasha flies... Rasha can't fly, but she has boots of flight. This is literally the only time she ever uses... Or no, the second time she's ever used her boots of flight, which she got just in case,
You need to. Which this is a good reason to use them.
It was. I mean, she could have, run up the wall.
Yeah, but
this was more direct.
Yeah. And, maybe the walls could attack you, too. You don't know. It's all chitinous and viscous inside the ships.
Gross. So she can fly. No, boots of flight don't give you just unlimited flying. It's literally, per time you
10
can
rounds.
use them.
So many rounds per day, and you can only use...
It's not a lot. It's
which
maybe
a round is 6
couple
seconds,
minutes.
so that's
It's only a minute, or it's just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So she's called upon this power, and for the first time uses the fire breath, which was another power that she gained from being the dragon champion of Azita Haka, and this immense flame just shoots out of her mouth up into the ship, and it just keeps going, and it's just going and going through the ship, and then the fire it's ship and it's swirling around her, you know, who...
And any Illithid that might have gotten near her?
Gone, done, burned. And it totally just tears its way through this ship and just absolutely obliterates it.
Like the center of it, like, blown out. Like it, you know.
Yeah, there's just no
and
way.
Laufweir's in there somewhere.
She warned him. And then as the fire, like, swirls and rages around her, those who are watching, which is, you know, Azita Haka and
some of the dragons
some of the other dragons, they see, you know, the fire come and swirl around her, who is immune to fire. And then they lose sight of her for a moment, and then when the fire finally clears, she's gone.
Immolated.
But not actually.
On this plane.
And that is the moment where Rasha ascends. She ascends, Sagata, she ascends to the plains up to, where do they Mesha spent us?
Jenna,
whatever that is.
It's in heaven.
I hadn't actually, like, talked about this with Jason, but my thought was literally, they're like, she ascends, you know, and appears there. The rest of the Mesha spent us are like, welcome, young one, you must now fight.
Yep.
And so she has to join in on the battle against the Far Realms. This was also very late in the night on Sunday, which was the second day, and we still didn't finish then. And I had to go to bed, and I was like, Jason, I was like, can this just be where my PC ends? Because, like, I can't play anymore today, and I don't know how long you're going to go. So I also said, I was like, please, I don't know if we're playing again. Let me just do this really quick scene really fast with Ryan, with Treskin. So I said, okay, Ryan. Some point after the battle's over, where's Treskin? What's he doing up, you know, in the plains, in the heavens? It's like, well, he's, you know, here in this forest reading a book. I said, okay. I said, what are those angel things, those?
The Azadas.
And Azada comes to find you and says, are you Treskin Volrain? He's like, who is asking? The Desert Wind? Uh-huh. Yeah, that's me. And then it just leaves. And then a little while later, Rasha just comes in and then tackles him again. And she's like, I told you I would find you. And he's like, wait, he's like, you know, and had kissed him, and she's like, I told you I would find you. He's like, yeah, but you cheated. You sent, you know, someone to find me. She's like, listen. He's like, yeah. She kisses him again, and he's like, fair. And she's like, I don't know where anything is here. Like, how else was I supposed to find you? And then, yeah. And then, they sort of kind of live eternally.
As gods.
They live happily ever after, and literally ever after. Like, they're able to be together, which honestly is, like, not how I thought that this character's story would end when I started. At all. It's, it was an extraordinarily cool story. Like, just... And, you know, it's not like this was planned, that, like, Rasha would become god-blooded.
No.
At all. Or that it was planned that she would, you know, be the dragon champion and all that kind of stuff. It just happened through things and decisions that were made. It was really, really, really cool. So, as sort of a very brief... We may talk about this in greater detail later, but, Naboria did beat back the Illithid enough that they left. There were some territories that still had Illithid in them, and they would remain there. There were now some Illithid on the planet.
Keep going.
person doesn't deserve happiness. Well, too bad, because he got it.
And this was the outcome of the aftermath of the battle with Illithid. This is 1,000 years later. Things have changed.
The new campaign we're starting.
Fully in the Fourth Age. And down here, this place called Ralzir, this is what the Illithid still control on Naboria.
That's their country. They took Asarudin, which is unfortunate.
And parts of Surtur, which Surtur was carved up. The goblins thrown to the wind is no longer Surtur.
Yeah.
Many things have changed. But as well, there are some who have come descended from those who ascended.
There are.
1,000 years ago.
There are several characters in the new campaign that we have just started that are descended from or related to in some way the past player characters. Because even though we want to play a new story, it's still definitely fun to have that connection. To the past. And especially for me, to be comfortable in playing a character, for it to be sort of connected to something that I already know, that makes me feel more comfortable and familiar with the character at that point.
So I updated the map and talked with everybody who played before to see if they wanted to play again, and many said yes, some said no.
Some new people.
And the map is much better than it was before. It's much clearer to tell what is a city, what is a fort, what is a town, all that type of stuff. And there are many more little places on there that weren't there. They were there before in my mind, but I never had written them down, or they'd visited them, and I go back through the notes from before, like, this is a place I visited, I need to put it on the map and, put a little thing about it, and it's been neat. This one is not going to be as intense as the last one.
We're starting at level 1, so.
And it's much more about whoever can get together on the weekend, we get to do it. So yeah.
We had each, smaller group kind of had their session zeros, kind of a thing, and then we all got together, and we still haven't finished the first session.
That's how it goes.
So I guess, technically we did finish the first session, but...
Right.
The next session will be next month.
The test continues.
Mm-hmm. But we will eventually talk about that as well.
But for Rasha's story,
this is the end. It's very exciting. A wonderful 3 years and a great story. I really do. We want to eventually write the story of Naboria together. There is a lot of story.
I have it all saved. Hundreds of pages from everyone who started 15 years ago or more at level 1, and even an original little module adventure that I wrote as an introduction to the world, and up till now is all saved in some form. When writing it, unless I go for licensing from Wizards. Actually, now Hasbro for
some things will have to be changed.
A license that I'm not happy with anymore.
Things like that, but
Oh, change names of things, but descriptions don't have to change for things as long as I'm not using their descriptions.
They're
so we know what things
word.
are. We're not using copyrighted word, and hopefully it gets done before I'm dead.
I hope so too.
I have no idea if anyone would be interested in buying it, but
Hey, maybe by that time I'll be a famous streamer. I'll be like, hey, buy this book we wrote.
That'd be cool. Maybe I'll be a published academic author and
be like, hey,
this is my experiment with a fantasy.
Buy this fiction I wrote.
Anthropology.
Mr. Published Academic.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, we know that by that point you will be a published academic author,
I
because
hope.
that's going to happen very soon.
We're trying. It's not a definite. We're trying to get published.
That's going to happen within a couple years.
Yeah. I mean,
you're in a master's program and you're doing research and stuff. It's going to happen. Anyways.
Some people don't. Whatever.
Anyways.
It is a thing that I will attempt to do.
Where's
whether
my
it does
mouse?
happen or not.
I lose my mouse so easily, all the time. Oh my goodness.
All right. So, thank you all very much for joining us on this trip. She's gonna be in focus and I'm not, because whatever. And then no, I'm kidding.
This has been super fun. We want to tell more stories about Naboria and about this particular 15-year campaign. I am not sure if we will have gathered people by next week to do any of that. But we'll see. See you later, alligators. Thanks, Ashley.
But we have some friends that are interested, and we'll be talking with them and seeing what's it. And because it's other people, it may also not be Mondays. It may be a different day in the future, depending upon their affiliation and everything. But
yeah, we'll work it out. So it may not be RPG story time for a bit, but I'll still be streaming something, obviously. If I can steal this computer again, I'll probably do more Minecraft stuff. Because laptop, poor laptop. Anyways, thank you so much for coming. This has been fun. Nice stream and super cool to reach the end of Rasha's story. It was a wild ride. It was great.
Hope you all enjoyed the story, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.